you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, there are only things that makes it official. Welcome to the big show. For over 16 years and 300 episodes, we bring the Chris Voss Show. And as always, we are joined by the most amazing guests and amazing audience. It's the best audience in the world, as we like to say, because we just tell that to people so they think really highly of themselves. But you're the smartest audience in the world because you've been listening to all these amazing episodes and learning so much stuff. I mean, you might be too smart for your own good, like me. Nah, I'm not really smart for my own good. I cause a lot of trouble. But refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss 1, the TikTok, and Chris Voss, Facebook.com. Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. Today we had an amazing young lady on the show with us today. She is a multi-book author. We'll get into both her books and some of the work that she does in speaking, consulting, and coaching as well. Her latest book is out called Dark and Silent Office, a digital accessibility guidebook for inclusive communication in the workplace, out May 8th, 2024. We're going to get into it with her and all the good stuff of what she learned and how we can learn more of it. She's got over 30 years of rich experience. She is a seasoned expert in guiding small businesses towards sustainable growth. As the visionary behind 5FT View Consulting, 5FT View Consulting, Stephanie's leadership is defined by her remarkable knack for pinpointing and resolving organizational gaps. She champions a steadfast dedication to achieving true equity, not just through equality within the workplace. Welcome to the show, Stephanie. How are you?
I'm great, Chris. How are you today?
I am excellent. Welcome to the show. Give us any .coms. Where do you want people to find you on the interwebs?
The best way to find me is stephaniewarlick.com. That has all of my information.
So we're going to talk about your book, Dark and Silent Office, and we'll lead into a children's book you wrote called Squirrels Bowling on the Roof, which is a great title. So give us a 30,000 overview of what you do there or what the book, Dark and Silent Office, is about.
Dark and Silent Office is a guidebook to help individuals in the workplace communicate with their coworkers that are visually impaired and hearing impaired.
I noticed on the cover it appears to be Braille on there.
Braille and sign language letters, yes.
There you go. So people can look at the face of the book and they can read it, as it were, with their sign language and stuff. So that's really cool. I noticed that as I was looking at the cover. So give us a more in-depth thing. Why did you write the book? What was the proponent for it? And why did you feel it was important that people learn the knowledge inside?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to compliment you because I think you're brilliant just because you called me young lady. So thank you for that. So how did I start it? After many years in the workforce and achieving a role as a chief administrative officer, I was continuing my work in accounting, finance, human resources, recruiting, and I worked for a digital accessibility company. This was about 3 years ago. And for the first time in my career, I found myself unable to communicate with my coworkers, the staff that I was supporting, because there were several individuals with disabilities, including visual impairedness, complete blindness, or deafness, and I didn't know how to communicate with them effectively in writing or in meetings. So I said that has to be fixed. And the concept of when I say that has to be fixed, that's what I call stand in the gap, kind of bringing in some of my coaching. But I believe that standing the gap by looking for problems in the workplace that can be solved, that we can take our own skills and abilities that we have and solve a problem for the organization, makes us stronger in the organization. So I solved that problem. I gave HR people, my peers, the resources that they needed to be able to not experience the same embarrassment that I did.
Yeah, and I imagine it can be hard communicating when there's that sort of, when people are using sign language, Braille. What we've always talked about on the show is there's no shortage of people that have great ideas. Everyone, I learned a long time ago as a CEO that I wasn't the purveyor of all the greatest ideas in the world. It seemed to be that way when it started, but then I started missing a few home runs and missing a few balls, and I was like, maybe I'm not the greatest guy in the world. And tapping into your employees, your employment base, your workforce, you never know where the richest ideas are going to come from. And sometimes an employee can have an idea or a contribution or many contributions on a daily basis to the betterment of the company, the betterment of everyone, and you need to be able to tap into those resources. I mean, you just never know where that great idea or innovation is going to come from.
You're 100% correct. So this guidebook that I created as a neurodivergent person who's ADHD, I made quick and easy read with lots of bullet points and checklists to kind of make it absolutely easy to absorb. We want to hear all those voices at the table. And it's not just about being open to hearing those different diverse voices and not presuming that someone that has a physical disability or an invisible disability that can't be seen isn't as smart, because lots of individuals have all kinds of things and are brilliant. But opening that space and being inclusive so that they can be heard at the table. So an example would be when you're sitting in a meeting, make sure that you have closed captioning on so that the person that is hearing impaired can participate in the conversation. It's just that simple.
Yeah, that's an important point because, everyone needs to have access to that. What are some other tips and tricks that you talk about in the book?
Yeah, I talk about low tech, no cost, and high impact things that individuals with no extra cost can apply. And those are things like using correct font size and fonts that are readable. We try and aim for 12 point or higher. Or color contrast. When you put artifacts out there, you want to have dark colors on a light background and light colors on a dark background. That helps not only people with low vision, but also people that are colorblind. Yeah. Keeping in mind that if we're going to put a graph, we want to make sure to always have a key. And let's not try and just use red and green for the two colors that are out there, the most common form of color blindness. Another really important one for people that are blind and who use screen readers is that all images or videos have an alt tag. And that's just a description of the image or the video so that when the screen reader, which is the device that helps read images on the screen, tells the individual who can't see what is being shown on the screen.
I'm not only do I have ADHD too, squirrel. I also, I'm getting older now, so I have to blow up the font on just about everything nowadays. I'm like, old man eyes, got to blow up the font. Got to make it bigger for the 57-year-old in the room. And so, I feel it in how, you need to make things, I use a lot of dark backgrounds because, I spend a lot of time in computers, man. And after a while, that blinding light of the background can affect you. So I use a lot of the dark themes. And, I'm always frustrated with websites where I'm like, I can't get darkened on this, And, so, I'm probably a low impact need for some of the stuff that you talk about, but I'm just saying I can feel it.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of people can. And some of the things that I just mentioned are not even, while I focus my book on individuals with visual impairedness and hearing impairedness, because there are so many disabilities to attend to. If I had tried to capture the accommodations or the inclusivity that we could expand upon in this one book, it would have been 15 miles long. So I started in one area, but individuals that are neurodivergent also benefit from things like closed caption or presenting PowerPoint presentations in advance of meetings so that people that need a little bit longer to process can have that. There's all kinds of little things that we can do as individuals. I like to use the phrase, let's move random acts of kindness toward intentional acts of inclusion. It's really simple. And the teams benefit and companies benefit by doing so.
And you talk about carrying out an accessibility audit. And so maybe is it HR that needs to oversee that sort of thing, or does the CEO need to lead that charge? How does that work?
That would usually be a chief technology officer within an organization because it is very digitally based. I tend to discuss content in terms of artifacts, emails, Slack messages, spreadsheets, those kinds of things. But digital accessibility in its true form really is about websites. So usually a technology team or IT team would lead that effort.
So make sure the digital things there, I suppose materials like printable materials, manual, things of that nature. Do people make their employee manuals in Braille? Maybe they should. I don't know.
Well, there is, I'm sure, a service that does that. But in today's age of technology, an individual that was blind would probably have a screen reader that would, in fact, read an accessible PDF.
I have that now. I think it's, I don't know why I should plug them. Should I plug them? I pay for it. I think it's called Screenify or something like that, or Screechify or Speechify. I think it's called Speechify, and it reads me stuff on the screen, and I find that's very helpful. So tell us a little bit about your upbringing. What got you into this space and writing books about this sort of stuff?
Well, it wasn't my upbringing. It was a meandering path of lots of different...
It's the journey, not the destination, right?
I did start in family businesses working in HR in high school. So I was involved in HR early on. Again, took a meandering path, owned my own small business with my husband for many years. I was in marketing, moved into government contracting, eventually made my way to a software development company that was all about digital accessibility. And so that's where I experienced this need in my other executive functions to communicate with individuals, and was being exposed to this new knowledge that I had never been exposed to, this awareness that I didn't, I was just baffled that I had not had that awareness. And I think many individuals who do not have a person in their life with a disability would not have awareness. You need to have that exposure to bring awareness. And I believe that when you know better, you can do better. And that's when I brought it forward to bring in a book. And as I said, I've always said, hey, here's a problem. I can solve it. And I chose to solve that problem because I do like to educate. I do help small businesses grow and exceed, but a big part of that is the people part of businesses and really helping HR folks become more informed.
Definitely. I mean, there's always improvements that can be made. There's always things to get better. Let's talk about your other book that you have that's kind of a departure maybe from business. Squirrels Bullying on the Roof. A silly story that sounds sensational. Tell us about that.
You know, it's funny. A minute ago, you went squirrels when you're talking about ADHD.
Oh, that's right.
And I am ADHD, but ironically, it's funny to me now. I never thought about it until you said that squirrels are in the title of this. But I held this idea for this book in my head for 20 years until when I left my left organization. I had some time off before I started my new consulting business. And the concepts and the idea that I had held on loosely for 20 years just flowed right out of my head. I found an amazing illustrator. And Squirrels Bowling on the Roof, again, is another instance of me seeing a gap and needing to fill it. So my twins were about 2, maybe 3, and we had a stormy night in our old Cape Cod, and there was all this rumbling outside with the thunder and lightning. If you can imagine, like the brrr, of the lightning. And they were terrified. And they jumped in my lap and they said, Mommy, it's scary, blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh gosh, what do I do here? I don't know. It's just a guessing game of how to be a good parent all the time. You hope you don't mess up. Right?
Yeah, totally.
I said, no, it's not scary. I don't hear thunder and lightning. I hear squirrels bowling on the roof. What do you hear? Because it sounded like bowling to me.
Oh, wow.
And they thought that was the funniest thing in the world, and then just started playing and mimicking bowling and jumping around and acting like squirrels, like little people do. And I was like, that was pretty amazing. So again, this concept of being able to help children with scary noises. And we're afraid of all different kinds of noises. I couldn't find a book at that time. They're now 23. So there are other books out there now, but I still had this dream and this vision so clear in my head that I wanted to get it done. And it's really about teaching children how to use their imagination to overcome their fears.
Use your imagination to overcome your fears and stuff. It's a scary world out there, especially when you're a kid. You don't understand what's going on. You're like, I'm still scared by lightning and thunder. I don't know. What is it? The man in the sky is angry at me again. What do I do now?
Exactly. Exactly.
So people can take advantage of that. They can read the books and that. Let's get into your website. Some of the things you do over there, people can find. If you want to give me a plug on that website again, we'll get that in.
Sure.
Talk about some of the offerings you have there.
Sure. On StephanieWarlick.com, I offer my 5-foot view consulting. 5-foot view consulting, we serve as fractional chief operating officers. That's a part-time chief operating officer. Or other services might know of a part-time CFO or a part-time chief marketing officer. It's really bringing 30 years of experience in a part-time capacity so that small businesses can really grow and exceed their expectations where they may not have been able to afford a 30-year professional otherwise. We also talk about the 2 books. I also speak. I speak mostly about dark and silent office and bringing inclusivity to the workplace and teaching people these low-tech, no-cost, low-effort concepts so that there can be inclusivity in the workplace. But I also talk about stand in the gap. That's another speaking concept that I have. Stand in the gap. I also call on speaking owner mindset, because I think by standing in the gap and looking for challenges that need to be solved that no one else is resolving, the action and the drive of entrepreneurs, so I call it owner mindset, and I do believe that we can teach people how to be more driven in the workplace to be successful individually and to help the corporation be more successful.
Well, that works out really well. And then you do the speaking, you do the consulting, coaching. How do people work with you on the coaching side?
On the coaching side, they come to me where they're stuck in the workplace. So I help them really learn how to keep their ear to the ground, to listen for gaps, how to read their leadership so that they can navigate the political channels, as well as advocate for themselves to get promotions and raises. And I think that the way to get promotions and raises is to diversify your skills and abilities throughout the organizational silos so that you become indispensable to the organization.
Become indispensable. It's hard to fire you when you're indispensable. That kind of helps as well. Now, I noticed something on your website. There's a coming soon section for, I think, a book called Owner Mindset. Is it
That's right.
Something we want to talk about or feature?
Yeah, well, that's what I speak about when I'm called in by organizations. That is the next book. I am defining the criteria and the skills that make the owner mindset, that drive the entrepreneurial spirit. And by defining those characteristics, and I'm doing that through interviewing lots of professionals, people that are entrepreneurs, people that are raised by entrepreneurs, I'm really trying to discern, is the entrepreneurial spirit innate or is it learned? And I've definitely found evidence of both. But I do think the end result, my hypothesis, is that you can train and teach people those skills and abilities so that they can be more successful in the workplace.
Well, do you have an anticipated launch date for that book yet?
I don't, I'll be honest. It's overdue. I don't know what my website says right now, but I did expect it out by now. But my speaking for Dark and Silent Office, as well as my consulting business, have been doing really well. So it has waylaid me from my effort there. My book camp team at the Purpose Company would be disappointed that I'm off track, but anyway.
Well, you did put 2 books out last year, so you know.
I did.
You've been doing a lot.
I have. Yeah, but hopefully this year.
Yeah, sometime this year, watch for it, folks.
Yes, thank you.
There you go. Sign up for our website so you stay tuned for all that. So as we go out, give us your final pitch to everyone to engage with you, get to know you better, and reach out to you on .coms, et cetera, et cetera.
You can reach me at StephanieWarlick.com. I can talk to you or your organizations about greater success, optimizing each person's skills and abilities to make a well-rounded, diverse team and achieve goals.
It's really important to have this sort of inclusion thing. I was going to ask you, actually, what do you think? It seems like there's a bit of attack on DEI and inclusion. The SCOTUS rulings didn't help. Some of the things that are going on in the new administration, 2025, aren't helping. Well, what are some of your, I don't want to pull you into politics, but what are some of your thoughts on, I think a lot of companies right now are evaluating DEI and DEI effectiveness. I don't know if you have any thoughts on advice you give those companies.
I do. Thank you for asking. It really is a tough time right now for DEI and all the advocates out there that are trying to help be inclusive. I'm an HR person and I'm a business owner, right? So I've always believed that we should hire and promote based on merit. I want to be very clear about that. I do not believe in bringing someone into a position because they have a special need or of a certain color or certain religion, and we want to add diversity that way. I think inherently we have diversity within our organizations when we bring in a well-rounded group of people. And when we have our doors open and invite and welcome and don't close the door to diversity, we will automatically have a well-rounded team of merit-based skills and abilities. So that's really important. And I think that DEI is getting backlash with the presumption that all DEI means is hire someone even if they're not qualified. That's not what DEI means.
Yeah.
DEI means be open to the diverse. Don't just pick people that look like you. Don't turn away the ability for someone to apply that is blind or deaf because you think they can't do the job.
Yeah.
It means just be open to that and know that there's brilliance out there, and it looks different ways and it comes in different shapes and sizes, colors. And I hope that people continue to understand the value that diversity and inclusion bring to a workplace. Our next generation says that inclusion and diversity are one of the top reasons why they choose to work for a place or will not accept an offer.
Yeah. Well, I think they recognize, like we mentioned before, that there's no one person that has all the great ideas in the world. Right. And certainly everyone has a contribution they can make. Certainly everyone has value that they can provide if they want to provide it. You just never know. I mean, that's why we always tried to have a Peter Senge sort of learning organization. We always tried to have in our organizations. We used to always say the unasked question, the only dumb question here is the unasked question, because usually the person who needed to ask that question needed information to keep from breaking a $30,000 machine or something. So we're like, please ask, because if you didn't learn how to operate the machine in the initial meeting or video or whatever, we need you to know. And so having an organization that isn't afraid to ask questions, and because there's some organizations, they're like high school, they make you look dumb if you say you don't understand something, or maybe you just need a little bit more information to understand what's going on. And so they'll hit you like really hard. They'll be like, oh, you must be dumb, or you weren't paying attention. It's like, no, I just maybe want to make sure that I have a full understanding of what I was told. And I have some questions that maybe need to ask. And so, yeah, having that ability, I think, makes all the difference. And it's kind of interesting what's going on with DEI right now and all of it. I do believe in a merit-based system. There, no one should be hired based upon some sort of quotas or aspect from that nature. But certainly, people should be given the opportunity to rise. If they can show that they have great ideas, they work hard and do the job well. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, this has been very insightful to have you on. Give us your .coms as we go out, and we'll wrap up the show.
Thank you. It's StephanieWarlick.com.
Well, thank you very much, Stephanie, for coming on the show. Thanks to my audience for tuning in. Order the book wherever fine books are sold. It's called Dark and Silent Office, a digital accessibility guidebook for inclusive communication in the workplace. Check out our other books that are upcoming as well and out. The squirrel one is always fun. Thanks so much for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com, squirrel. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com Chris Voss, one, the TikTok, and all those crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you guys next time.